Australia's favourite destinations, and you can dust off your singlets and your boardies if you like, because Bali is back on the travel agenda. We can now fly directly to the tourism hub, but there are some rules.
Wayfarer travel editor James Wilkinson is here to explain all of them. Wilco, good morning to you. I mean, technically Bali's been open for a bit, but do we want to go there or not?
I'm not too sure, Mike. Given you've got to do 5 days of quarantine when you get there, but you've got to do it at a resort where you can run around the resort. So we saw this in Fiji when Fiji reopened in December and you had to do 3 days in the same resort and test negative. However, in Fiji, if you did test positive, which is still very unlikely, you have to stay in the resort for up to 10 days. In Bali, if you test positive, they take you off to an isolation centre or a hospital, which could be very expensive from a travel insurance standpoint. So, two very different situations here between different islands. So,
And do you test before you leave as well?
you've got to test 48 hours before you travel to the destination, which is fairly similar with Fiji. US is 24 hours, so that's fairly similar to PCR, not a RAT test. And then you get tested on day 4 in Bali, and if you're clear, off you go. But the only upside to this is that there are 5 hotels where you can stay at, all the luxury hotels: Nusa Dua, Jimbaran Bay, Ubud, Sanoa. So it's not so bad, but the average travel for Aussies to Bali is probably 4 nights anyway. So unless you're going for a month, I don't really see it.
But to clarify that, if you get there and you test positive, you don't get to stay in the luxury place or the nice hotel.
You march off somewhere different.
In a Bali hospital, I don't think many Australians are going to take up on that.
You also said that there was a big impact there with your travel insurance. What happens with that?
So you need to have about $25,000 worth of travel insurance, US travel insurance. So getting travel insurance is a little bit of a challenge at the moment. I know, to make it really easy, Qantas actually do it. And it's just for a trip at a time, so you can't book this insurance for 3 or 4 months. But it's probably a couple $100, I'd say, for a couple of weeks in Bali. So
you haven't been to Bali, but you have just been overseas. You've got travelling again as part of your job. Where have you been, and how easy, complicated, otherwise has it been?
Yes, I was over to Los Angeles and New York, so obviously you've got to travel, test before you go. I usually go to the airport testing centre, and I do it within the 24 hours. So I'm flying at 10, I do it the day before, so at least you know you're all good. When you get there, there's no more testing until you have to come back to Australia. And that's within 24 hours for a RAT test now. So in the US, you've got to have 5 days in isolation. That's what they recommend. In some states, it's different in other states, but generally 5 days. So the Australian government says you've got to be cleared for, you've had to be 7 days since you tested positive. So, but the US is very different. You can go and rent an Airbnb, an apartment.
It's a bit more loose,
Yeah, but I think, look, it's getting better. I think the UK is moving to no testing shortly. Ireland, I believe, is going to a booster shot. You don't have to test at all. So I think it's a matter of time before Biden turns it in the US, and I think we'll follow suit pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think in the next 6 months there'll be a lot more clarity about all sorts of international travel.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Was it good? Like, did you enjoy it?
It was great fun. Yeah, it was actually good being in the energy. You got stuck in a snowstorm in New York, but apart from that, it was great fun. It is a fun time to travel. You've just got to be mindful what might happen.
I feel like we're saying, tell us what the rest of the world is like, James. We've all forgotten.
Yeah.
Thank you
You're
very
welcome.
much. Good to talk to you.